write like a man. Use a typewriter.
Do you like the King James version as far as the translation goes?
I think they're all pretty good translations. I
Okay.
think the King James version, I use it a lot. I prefer reading in a modern translation, but I use the King James version because I can connect into the Greek and the Hebrew. And it has more interesting words in there. I think there's a lot of markers that are in the King James Version Bible, like unicorn, like, as one example, or Easter, or
in 1 Timothy 4:1, where it talks about not abstaining from meats being one of the doctrines of devils, and the meat thing is not in any of the other stuff. So
Interesting.
Anyway, not that it matters, but
So I think they've put in some of the translators put in some of their markers, like Lucifer.
Oh, right.
God of the Masons. And you have to understand that the elite did the translations, and they were all part of Royal Masonic societies, and Bacon was the last editor. So I'm not surprised that they would do some things like that. And there's a lot of questionable parts to some of the words that they chose, but I think overall it's a good translation, and it doesn't really do much other than to put some markers in there. But that unicorn one is, King James was the unicorn dynasty.
Oh, really?
Really? Never heard that.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. Really? And a unicorn is like a horse that would lead the chariot of the gods, of Zeus.
No kidding. I never heard this.
And is part of the allegory that would be a cherubim. And so when you look at the coats of arms, you get dragons and you get serpents, you get eagles and you get unicorns, and you're getting all of these beings as part of their genealogies in the coats of arms. They're going back to who they say sponsored their divine right to rule, right? As King James did.
Yeah, the symbology of their lineage.
And James was James was Scottish.
Oh yeah,
he was James the fourth or sixth of Scotland. He became James the first when he took the throne after Elizabeth.
Exactly, and as a Stuart dynasty out of the Unicorn dynasty. So they were thought to be the most ennobled of the bloodlines to that point in time, even more ennobled than the Merovingians. That's how many more scioning of pure bloodlines that went into the Unicorn dynasty. And that unicorn is, a single horn, right?
Yeah.
And it is the horn of Daniel 8. He is that horn that sprouts up. Right. And King James looked at him as himself as either the one who is going to be the Messiah of the world or one of his descendants would be. But there are many bloodlines, right? And he was into the occult. I mean, he was a Royal Mason. He was initiated from childhood. So, when you see pictures of him being dubbed into Masonry, that's just symbolic. He was an adept before he was an adult, and so far above. And he wrote books on demonology and stuff.
Wow, did he really?
Wow.
Yeah, 2 books on it. So, anyways, we sort of
King James of England, the one that gives us our King James version. James the First. Wow.
And
and of course, Bacon was the second most powerful person, both in Queen Elizabeth's reign and then over into King James, and so.
Isn't there the theory that he's Shakespeare? Bacon?
Well, there's a lot to that.
Really?
He had.
I'm sorry, Gary.
He was a writer, and he formed 2 writing societies. One is called the Knights of the Helmet, and I'll tell you the other one in a second. And he was creating these writer societies to create a new language, to be the language of the world, to bring about the new Atlantis that he had also written, right?
Yeah.
Where you have, an end time where you have the old organizational structure where you have the sciences working with the polytheist religion, because the 7 sacred sciences are the basis for the mystical religion. So obviously they're going to work together and deny the real God of the universe. And so he's developing this language that is going to be the language that is used through all of these writers and plays that is going to be used in the King James Version Bible to be the universal language of the world. That was King James and England were going to become they sort of the springboard for world government, and English would be this new language to be the Babel religion of that end time, whenever that would come about. So the second society was the Spear Shaker Society.
Spear Shaker.
And
that's what we should have called our.
So it goes back to Athena and Apollo in Greek mythology, who were sponsors of the arts, but also who held a spear that they shook.
Interesting, really.
And then we have, as part of that writing group, Shakespeare.
There you go. Yep, there it is, baby.
And so I don't think that he was actually Shakespeare, although he could have been, but I think Shakespeare was his front, right? He wrote and Shakespeare published them.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh man, that's so cool.
So
yeah.
This is all new to me.
I got a couple
all new to
documents
me
on that if people want it.
So what you're saying is this is really hard for me to fit in my brain, that William Shakespeare wasn't actually like a person. It was really Francis Bacon through it. May have been, but through the Spear Shaker Society, he wrote these works and penned these works as William Shakespeare, or someone in the society did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which they kind of telegraphed in Shakespeare in Love as,
Interesting.
Yeah, I've got a couple documents on that. If you want it, just let me know. Get a hold of me. I'll send it to you.
Oh my gosh.
Please.
Please email that stuff to us. Yeah, that's so cool.